Hello and welcome to another Standard Games video on the official MTG Arena channel. Today we're taking a look at monowhite humans updated with not only March of the Machine, but now also March of the Machine the Aftermath, which introduces 4 copies of Coppercoat Vanguard as a powerful 2-mana lord, a 2/2 saying each other human we control gets +1/+0 and has ward 1, so it gives the team a bit of built-in protection, which is especially nice at protecting some of our key 3-drops, including of course Adeline, which can create a bunch of tokens, increases its power with the number of creatures on the battlefield, so Adeline can end the game very quickly indeed. And then Brutal Cathar, one of our removal spells in the deck, in creature form can also be protected by our 2-mana lord. And then there's also the Anointed Peacekeeper, offering us a bit more disruption by taking a look at the opponent's hand, and then we can name any card, doesn't even have to be in the opponent's hand necessarily, to make it 2 more expensive, also applies to activated abilities, so it can be relevant against Planeswalkers. And then another new card from March of the Machine is a Knight-Errant of Eos, a 5-mana 4/4, but it has Convoke, so we can tap any number of creatures to help pay for it. So we can potentially tap 3 creatures, and then we only need 2 mana to actually cast the Knight-Errant. And ideally we do tap 3 creatures, because when the Knight enters the battlefield, we get to look at the top 6 cards of our library, and we may reveal up to 2 creature cards with mana value X or less from among them, where X is the number of creatures that convoked the Knight-Errant, and then we put the revealed cards into our hand and then shuffle our library. So the knight can tap 3 creatures with Convoke and then potentially find 2 3-drops among the top 6 to put into our hand, but we can also find cheaper creatures if we didn't find 2 3-drops instead. So that's why tapping 3 creatures is ideal. And then rounding out the deck, we also have some powerful 1-drops. Hopeful Initiate, also a human that grows with training if it attacks alongside a larger creature. And then Recruitment Officer, more of a soldier tribal card, but still very good in this deck as a 1-mana 2/1 that can occasionally provide a bit of extra card advantage, since besides having all humans, we also have lots of soldiers in this deck. If you take a look at the breakdown, still 20 soldiers among our 36 creatures. And then Skrelv is the only non-human in the deck, but it definitely deserves a spot, as it can protect our creatures from spot removal spells and abilities, and can also help our creatures attack past the board stall, especially relevant with Adeline, which can deal a very large amount of damage. And then at 2 mana, besides our Vanguard, we also have the full set of Guardian of New Benalia, which has a bit of built-in protection, as we can discard a card at any point to make it indestructible until end of turn, and we have to tap it. Also has Enlist, so we can tap another creature when the Guardian of New Benalia attacks, as long as that creature doesn't have summoning sickness and isn't attacking. And then whenever we enlist a creature with a Guardian, we get to scry 2, so that also gives us a tiny bit more card selection. And then of course Thalia, excellent in a creature-heavy deck like this one, with our only non-creature spell being 2 copies of Laydown Arms as another payoff for being a mono-white deck, as we've got 19 planes to enable it, and then it's a powerful 1-mana removal spell, even though it gains the opponent a bit of life back. And then another perk of being a monocolor deck is that we get to run a few creature lines like Mishra's Foundry, which can turn into a 2/2 to potentially deal those last points of damage, and then Aiganjo can also be channeled to deal 4 damage to an attacking or blocking creature, even have a few legendaries to give it a discount. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play with a fine hand. Double Officer can make it easier to convoke our knight. Well, let's see what we're up against. It looks like a red-black sacrifice deck potentially. Now we could play Vanguard. Not really interested in trading. But next turn, could see myself playing Adeline and attacking. Could also go Officer, Convoke Knight, tapping 3 creatures. It's going to be an Epic here. And maybe a 1-mana removal spell here, sacrificing a creature or artifact potentially. And yep, Annihilating Glare. Alright, so we don't get to Convoke Knight. So now we could go Officer plus Guardian, or we can just play Adeline, attack, and trade for Witness. Yeah, that seems fine. We get Adeline on the board. Opponent already had to use one of their removal spells. So if they can't answer Adeline, we can run away with the game. Harvester or Braids is the choice here. And it's going to be Braids, so Adeline is safe for now. opponent sacks a 1/1. I could do the same, although the extra token not only pumps Adlin, but makes it easier to convoke Knight. So I think we decline. Back up Adlin's nice. But first we want to increase its power. And then I'm not going to be able to convoke Knight here, so may as well attack with a token, since our opponent's going to block one of them regardless. Ideally we convoke Knight, tapping at least 3 creatures, so we can find our powerful 3-drops with it. Furnace Rains to steal Adlin. Okay, that's too bad. And they'll be able to sacrifice it to Braids. Opponent's gonna get to make a treasure token as well. Not really interested in chumping. And a Vran is next to start draining us. Yep, opponent's definitely running away with the game here. So now if I were to play Adlin, I can still convoke afterwards, so that's decent. Finding double Brutal Cathar. Have to get rid of Braids here before the opponent steals more of our creatures. And now I'm okay sacking a human token if necessary. Berserkers next. More sacrifice fodder, good with Vran. Puts counter on Braids. If the opponent attacks, it implies they have another Braids in hand. So do we still want to trade if that's the case? They probably have some good alternatives, even if they do have another Braids in hand. So I think I'm okay with the trade. Vran triggers. They'll be looking to use Berserker in our turn to trigger Vran once again. And a Harvester. So probably Brutal Cathar, try and exile Vran, step 1. Right, Conviction to sacrifice it instead. Still allows a pretty significant attack. So this will enlist a token. And a lay down arm seems good. Don't need another Thalia. So now they can't chump with Berserker, sacrifice on Adlin, so they're just gonna chump and take the rest. Okay. So we'll see if they can get rid of Adlin. Another Vran makes sense. And then Harvester could take out Guardian and can't save it from the -2/-2 here, even with Indestructible. If we need to gain some life, we can also lay down arms our own creature to gain 3. Although we'll see if we're not better off just exiling the opponent's creature. Opponent goes digging with a blood token, discarding Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Okay, so if I just play another Brutal Cathar and exile Vran, we may be attacking for lethal, and our opponent agrees. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a fine hand. Got to 1-2-3 curve. Offering early pressure and a bit of disruption. Opponent mono-red with turn 1 Phoenix Chick. So it's going to be a race. Now Vanguard's very likely eating a removal spell here. But that means Peacekeeper's more likely to stick around. Strangle, pretty efficient. And I may as well attack first, in case her opponent was holding another instant speed removal spell here. Okay, Raptor and Adversary. Raptor's kind of scary, even though Lay Down Arms could be a decent answer. Adversary at 5 mana can get back a Strangle. I think we still go with Dinosaur here, since making an already expensive card more expensive is usually the preferred play. Could have also named something like Lightning Strike, even though it's not in their hand, since they likely have 4 copies in the deck. And that's a decent answer to the Peacekeeper. Opponent's gonna hang on to Adversary to play it with a +1 counter next turn, but that does give them a pretty inefficient turn here. So we can attack for 5, and then we have to decide if we want to just activate Officer, maybe find a Soldier, or play another one. With our opponent at 10, I think the added pressure is worth it. Don't feel the need to Lay Down Arms Phoenix Chick. Can clear a 3/3 Adversary next turn, perhaps. And then I'll still have the mana to activate Officer. Opponent is attacking, which is surprising, but I'll take it. So, may as well start by activating Officer. Finding 2 decent hits. Cathar, exiling Adversary could be more relevant at this stage. Although, we can also exile it with a Lay Down Arms right now. We're still at 12. Gaining the opponent 3 life may not be what we want here. And yeah, opponent has seen enough. They know about Brutal Cathar next turn, and they're just under too much pressure. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, missing a 1 mana creature, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to convoke Knight, but I think it's still a keep overall. Probably leading with Guardian of New Benalia, which has a bit of built-in protection, as opposed to playing Vanguard, which doesn't protect itself. Although double Vanguard could be nice, as they would both give each other Ward 1. I think we still Guardian first. And then next turn can play Vanguard. Kind of expect something to eat a removal spell, but... Alright, never mind. Get to hit for 3. Vanguard is quite nice in multiples. And there's Rafine. Okay, there's another Vanguard. So, can enlist the first one, since it just gets blocked by Rafine. And we get to dig for additional lands. Adelin's nice, but really need land here. So, the Vanguards have Ward 1, Guardian has Ward 2. If Shieldred shows up, can't quite exile it with a Lay Down Arms. Same with Rafine, since we only have the 1 plains. But land into Brutal Cathar would be quite brutal indeed. So, big draw step coming up. Opponent back up to 11. And there's a land. Okay. Get this Shieldred out of the way. And smash. And then always a good idea to enlist with the Guardian when we get a free attack in like this. Scry, plains. I'll keep one of them. Opponent's at 1. And next turn we can play another Vanguard. Okay, Clever Conductor gets to draw and discard. But opponent seems pretty dead, even if they have, let's say, an Eiganjo to channel. We have the ward from Vanguard, so they wouldn't be able to target our creatures. The Rafine attacks. Feels like a last-ditch attempt. Discards Adeline. And we should be able to just untap and attack for the win. But just to be safe, play another Vanguard and smash. And that does it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a decent hand. Can curve either Initiate or Officer into a turn 2 Vanguard. Could also start with Skrelv to then protect the rest of our team, which I also kind of like. Now we can double 1-drop, even though we may not have a very mana-efficient turn coming up. I think it's still gonna end up curving out better once we get to pump both 1-drops next turn and train the Hopeful Initiate. Opponent blue-black, could be Grixis, but just straight up blue-black for now. Forced to take out Skrelv. And we even picked up another 1-drop we can play. Perfect. So this is where we gain a pretty big momentum boost. Opponent's forced to deal with our Vanguard. Picked up another Skrelv, so we can animate Foundry, attack all out. And our opponent's seen enough. That was a quick one. Okay, we're on the draw. Hand has potential. Missing a 1-drop and a third land. But Thalia into Peacekeeper could be good disruption. Cathar if we need some interaction. And if we need to be the aggressor, Thalia into Adlin's also a nice curve. So opponent's maybe a Naya human kind of aggro deck. Skrelv is a turn late. Might still be the preferred play over Thalia, which may not be all that amazing in this matchup with our opponents mostly being a creature deck. And a 2-1 first strike also doesn't line up all that well against 3-3. Opponent's got their own Peacekeeper. Likely going for Brutal Cathar. But we'll see. Yep. Well, probably gonna go with our own Peacekeeper. Or we could try Adlin. And then Skrelv is a way for Adlin to keep attacking, even on a stalled board. But I kind of want to see what our opponent's working with. Maybe delay Halana and Helena, the partners. And yeah, there they are. Opponent's got their own Brutal Cathar, which we can kind of circumvent with Skrelv, and opponent's got the Vanguard as well. So very similar to our deck, except for having the extra colors. And our opponent did have a second Courtyard to cast the partners. So next turn could potentially convoke our Knight-Errant, even after playing Thalia. Opponent's forced to deal with Skrelv. Nope. Okay, I'll take it. Now the question is, do we trade? If we trade, our opponent gets to play partners next turn, but I could make my Cathar cheaper to play, and then we've got Cathar to answer the opponent's partners. If we trade, it's also a little bit harder to convoke Knight. And Knight is pretty good at blocking these 3/3 creatures. Although, of course, they can pump them up with the Vanguard, so that's not necessarily true. Interesting spot. I think I take 6 for now. So we are falling pretty low. So now it's less important to keep Skrelv untapped. So what does that mean for us? Could go Guardian instead of Thalia now, and then convoke Knight, tapping 3 creatures, find some more 3-drops. So that's decent. And found double Brutal Cathar. Although I may want to go 1 Brutal, 1 Vanguard, because of course we're still taxed by the Peacekeeper, so all the Brutal Cathars will be expensive. and having an extra cheaper play could be important. Okay, important turn coming up here. Opponent's got the Vanguard, so we can trade Knight for Peacekeeper. Never mind, second Vanguard. So now we're just dead. Alright, GG's. That was the risk of this line here. His opponent going double Vanguard. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a fine hand. One drop into Thalia, and let's make it Initiate since we'll be able to train it right away. And then Vanguard to pump the team. So a very nice curve. Could also go double one drop, although if we play two drop here, then next turn it's going to be a bit more efficient, I think, as opposed to being stuck with a bunch of twos. Against green-white, Thalia may not be the most effective, so that's definitely a reason to still double one drop. Although against green-white enchantments, Thalia should be decent. Okay, so play Officer, although actually second Initiate's not bad against enchantments since we can potentially use the ability. And then Vanguard and Smash. So, kind of the dream start against green-white enchantments. Opponent already jumping. Could see removal on Vanguard, costing the opponent's entire turn. Or Calyx, another new Aftermath card. So that's a 3-3. So here we can either attack with all the 3-powered creatures, including the 2-powered Initiate, which will pick up an extra counter, or we can attack all out, and then after picking up an extra +1 counter from training, we can use the Initiate's ability to blow up Calyx as it's an enchantment creature. And it's a close call, but being able to deploy all 3 1-drops here might just be better, and then we still get a healthy attack in. Okay, so ideally we avoid Calyx hitting us, but if they attack with it, they're likely dead. Naturalist is a good start. Although it's once again an enchantment creature that dies to the Initiate. And a Weaver to pump the team. And then I should just use the Initiate's ability now, so we get to actually train the 2-powered Initiates and attack all out. So yeah, totally reasonable draw from the green-white enchantments deck, but our draw was just better. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a fine hand. Thalia into Adeline. And then we've got some removal to back them up. Let's see what our opponent's up to. Grixis deck. So can expect a few removal spells here. So turn to Thalia, very helpful. Hoping to dodge Cut Down, which could still kill one of our creatures. Yeah, there it is. So now just gonna play Adeline, cross our fingers that it survives. That our opponent plays a creature as a blocker instead. Corpse Appraiser, fair enough. So that one we can exile in a few different ways. Vanguard's also nice. So maybe we don't want to exile it with Brutal Cathar, when our opponent can then kill Cathar, get the Appraiser back, and re-enable its ability. So let's just lay down arms and then play Vanguard as well. And then Cathar could still be an answer to Shieldred, which at least doesn't have an Enter the Battlefield ability. The token also pumped by the Vanguard, so get to hit for a decent amount. And there's Shieldred. Okay. So this could be a good spot to find our Knight to provide a bit of card advantage. Nevertheless, we're asking the opponent a lot of questions here. So let's see if they find answers. All the way down to 5. Can easily sacrifice a creature to an Invoke Despair. So that's not a concern. Fable's fine too. And now with the protection from Vanguard, even Go for the Throat wouldn't be able to kill Adeline. So we can fire up Mishra's Foundry ×2. And that should do it. Awesome. So quick one here against Grixis. So yeah, quite pleased with how this mono-white humans with the new additions from March of the Machine Aftermath seems to be working out. We've got the extra Lord at 2 mana, which makes us want to play more humans as opposed to the typical mono-white soldiers, which used to be quite popular as well. And then the Knight at 5 mana can be quite nice in those grindier matchups as a Convoke threat, and a 4/4 also quite large. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.